Well, as we saw at the top of the program, the New South Wales government has abandoned its appointment of Mr Turnbull as its new climate czar after a revolt from coalition MPs and grassroots Liberal Party members. After his dumping, Turnbull, who last week endorsed a ban on new coal mines, told ABC Radio he was the victim of a News Corp vendetta.
There has been nothing short of a, pretty ferocious campaign, a vendetta really, in the characteristic way that News Corp operates. And its goal was to bully the state government into not appointing me chair of this net zero board. They've been successful.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined from Sydney by the man who broke the news of Turnbull's demise, New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro. Well, John, your mob might have finally seen a bit of sense today and dumped him from this very contentious position. But I want to know, you were in the cabinet. How on earth, you're not stupid, how on earth did this get through in the first place?
Well, look, Peter, I didn't oppose it. I've admitted that today, and I never opposed it. I thought he was suitably qualified. People know my position on Mr Turnbull. I called for him to resign many years ago as Prime Minister, and I didn't want to show bias. I was able to put my ego aside, my bias aside, and look at it on its merits. There are other cabinet ministers who made the same decision. And to be honest, Peter, I have fought many Liberal fights, koalas last year, and I thought this is not my fight. This is a fight for the Liberal Party, and I was prepared not to oppose it. And so I'm just as responsible as anyone else. But the outcry and the backlash, it was very serious, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt. But within 48 hours of that, he came straight out opposing mining. At a time when we know the mining sector and coal mining is what's underpinning the economy. So he misrepresented his position as the chair of the Net Zero Emissions Board in a way that is in conflict with government policy.
Yeah, just on that, he told the Sydney Morning Herald that he was the victim of a thuggery campaign. Right-wing media, he says, cracked the whip as bullies do, and they got their way. But you're the Deputy Premier, yes, of course you are, but you're also the Mining Minister. And what was his appointment doing to the standing of mining in New South Wales, do you think?
Well, Peter, as Deputy Premier and Leader of the Nationals, I get to pick the portfolios that I want at the start of every term or whenever there's a reshuffle. And I decided to pick mining because I think for a number of years we neglected it in this state. My goal is to make New South Wales the #1 mining investment destination in the resource sector, and over the last 2 years I've achieved more in that space than probably previous mining ministers, or will actually have achieved more. And I've put out a future of coal statement that takes us out that coal will be part of the landscape for decades ahead. I've ruled out areas from mining that is sensible and common sense has prevailed, and we'll do the same with gas shortly. And therefore there is a policy position endorsed by Cabinet and the government in relation to where I stand on mining and what the government position on mining is. And unfortunately Mr Turnbull chose his position, misrepresented his position, and spoke against what was government policy. There will never be a moratorium on coal mining while I'm there. We have a strong plan in place, and as the mining minister and #2 in charge in this state, I will continue to be a strong advocate. I've taken on the IPC when they've got it wrong. I've taken on those decisions against the mining sector. These are real jobs, important jobs that underpin the economy. It's what funds our schools and hospitals, and we've got to stop running on ideology, but on the facts, and that is that mining is going to be a big part of our economy for decades to come.
I know there's a lot of Liberals that have contributed to the debate in recent weeks are saying that, thank God for the National Party. These are Liberals saying that because, Turnbull was a problem, but he was a figurehead. He was just the tip of the iceberg. The underlying issue is Mr Kean. To be honest, he's on a unity ticket with the Greens, and some of the policies he's pushing out of that environment portfolio are what causing your government issues at the ballot box, certainly issues with your base. Has the Liberal Party got too woke around that cabinet table?
Well, as I said, I put my bias aside and my past history on Mr Turnbull aside, and allow the Liberal Party to make a decision on this. Yes, I'm a member of Cabinet. I didn't oppose it. I own it, along with my National Party colleagues. But the reality here is that I can't fight all the fights. I learned that with koalas last year. I was fighting for property rights. I was fighting for farmers. I was fighting for our foresters and for the timber industry. But I was left standing under attack from my coalition partners at the time, and I've learned since then to pick the fights. And this is probably no surprise how this has ended up. But it didn't have to be me. Imagine the story if I had opposed it, I would have been at the heart of that controversy. Well, today, knowing that now the decision's been rescinded, people are still having a go at me within the Liberal Party. So I can't win either way. But what I've learned today is I'm going to stick to my old self, stand for what is right, and continue that the Nats will be the Praetorian Guard for common sense. And that's how I see the Nats. It's why in this by-election coming up, we need to elect another National Party member. Why? We need more Nationals in the coalition, not less, because I think we are, as I said, the party that represents common sense and the battlers, especially in regional rural New South Wales.
Look, you make the right point there to pull people up, because if you had opposed it in the Cabinet room, you're just another voice. There were two others who opposed it, but the decision would likely still have carried, and it would have been about you and Malcolm Turnbull or Nats and Libs. What this did, though, was show the power of the Liberal Party base, because they are the ones that have sent very clear messages into government MPs' offices and into the Premier's office. And I think that in part, and probably a couple of calls from the Prime Minister, have made the difference here about this appointment. Tell me how you think this brouhaha is going to play out in the upcoming by-election in the Hunter.
Yeah, well, firstly, you are right. I actually want to take that note on, and that I think for the first time the Liberal base spoke, and that there were also moderate branches that were ringing in, emailing in, and telling their local member that this wasn't good enough, and they see Malcolm so divisive, in his approach that even the moderate side of the Liberal Party could not find this palatable. So in one way, by the end of all this, this experiment in a way has proven there is still a strong base. Look, this could have been disastrous during the by-election on the eve that no one knew there was going to be a by-election at the time of the appointment, and for Malcolm to have made those comments about coal mining within 4 hours of the announcement of a by-election and 4 hours and the announcement of his appointment was detrimental. I was with Joel Fitzgibbon on Sunday at the footy, and he said we were just going to run Malcolm Turnbull corflutes throughout the by-election, and there's probably truth on that. Now, this is, of course, a member of Parliament, Joel Fitzgibbon, who once upon a time was also on the wrong side of the debate when he saw a cabinet ministry up for grabs with Shorten. Now he's seen the other side of the debate. So for me, it was detrimental, and the decision today is the right decision. I do give credit to Matt Kean that he saw through it and let common sense prevail. And now we have a clean run in this by-election, and we'll have our pre-selection tomorrow night with our candidate. And fingers crossed we get the right candidate. And I'll tell you what, on my track record alone as mining minister in our party, we're not going to pretend we're for coal mining. We've always been a fan of coal mining.
Right, well, I look forward to meeting your candidate and introducing them to my viewers when that decision is known. John Barilaro, thank you for your time.
Thank you.